Good evening. I'd like to call the regular monthly board meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather together this evening, and we understand the great responsibility vested in each of us as we make decisions on behalf of the children of St. Bernard. We are grateful for the hard work of our teachers and ask that you bless those who choose to be a guiding light to their students. Help each teacher to understand the impact that an earnest, caring teacher can have on the life of a child, and help us give to each child the foundation and the opportunity necessary to exercise the talent you have placed inside each one of them. These things we pray in your name. Amen.
Ms. Acevedo, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Bocek.
Mrs. Acevedo?
You did.
Here. Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Dr. Kraft? Mr. Egan? Mrs. Lemoyne?
Here.
Mr. England? Mrs. Dysart?
Here.
Dr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
Mrs. Nicosia is not with us, and Mr. Warner.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Voce. Before we go to the regular item on the agenda, I would like to take this moment of silence for Mr. Reed Henderson. He was a former state representative, and he was always a friend of education. Moment of silence for Reed, please. Thank you. And besides being a state rep, Reed was just a really nice guy, has a fine family, so our sympathies go out to Hope and their whole family at this time. And on a happier note, we would like to wish, the entire board and Ms. Voce would like to wish Ms. Catherine Lemoyne a very happy birthday. Happy birthday,
Oh, happy
Catherine.
birthday.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And next item are community concerns.
I don't believe we have any. No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Shelby. Next item is a motion to incorporate the report of the September General Committee meeting into the minutes of the September regular monthly meeting.
So move.
There's a motion by Dr. Lewis, seconded by Mr. Warner. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Next item is a motion to approve the following minutes. Regular monthly meeting minutes from April 26, 2016, as published on June 3, 2016. Motion by Dr. Kraft, seconded by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your votes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Next item is a motion to approve regular monthly meeting minutes from June 28, 2016, as published on September 16, 2016. Motion by Mr. England, seconded by Ms. Lemoyne. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Next item is a motion to approve the regular monthly minute meetings from July 26, 2016, as published on September 16, 2016. There's a motion by Ms. Acevedo, seconded by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Next item is to approve the regular monthly meeting minutes from August 23rd, 2016, as published on September 23rd, 2016.
So moved.
There's a motion by Mr. Warner, seconded by Dr. Lewis. Any discussion? There being none, please cast your votes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Ms. Banaszak, you've been very busy with the minutes. Thank you. Okay, next item is a report on truancy program with the district attorney's office. Ms. Voce.
Yes, Mr. Powell could not be with us this evening, so I am substituting for him at this time. Just a little bit of a preview. You know, the truancy situation in the parish is something that we have been addressing for a long time, and it's not that we have a tremendously high rate of truancy, but we do have students who should be in school each and every day, and for whatever reasons they are not. We have been working closely with the Sheriff's Department and a truant officer to address the issue, but a missing piece of this has been a little bit teeth behind the issue when parents and or students do not respond to those outreaches that we have. So we met with our district attorney, Perry Nicosia, and one of his ADAs, Larry A. Zola, and worked out a program with them that I think is going to be very, very beneficial for the community as a whole and really for these young people and their futures. Included in your packet, and I want to, if you would look at the revised statute 17-221, that does address truancy. And I'm just going to point out 3 or 4 of the highlighted sentences in this. And you can read the whole thing at your leisure, but it talks about excessive absences and it talks about truancy in the statutes. Some people do not think that you have to attend school until the age of 18. But if you look at the very first sentence in the revised statute, it says that every parent, tutor, or other person residing within the state of Louisiana having control and charge of any child from that child's 7th birthday until his 18th birthday shall send such child to a public or private day school unless the child graduates from high school prior to his 18th birthday. So children must be attending school until the age of 18 or until they graduate, until he or she graduates from high school. If you drop down to the next section that we have highlighted, it says whoever violates the provision of this subsection or of RS 17-234 shall be fined not more than $250 or imprisoned not more than 30 days or both, which is very serious implication. If you switch over to, or flip over to the 4th page, I guess, RS 17-233, it goes into a little bit more detail for children and parents of children from kindergarten through the 8th grade and puts some very definite consequences in the state law. And the part that is highlighted is the parent or legal guardian of any student in kindergarten through grade 8 who is considered habitually absent or habitually tardy pursuant to the provision of this section. And if you read above, it says 5 unexcused absences or tardies constitutes habitual absence. Okay, shall be in violation of the provisions and shall be punished as follows. A first offense shall be punishable by a fine of not more than $50 or the performance of not less than 25 hours of community service, and then any subsequent offense shall be punishable in accordance with the revised statute that we referred to earlier. I guess what the reason I have included this is to reinforce that it is in state law. It is not something that is just the policy of the St. Bernard Parish School Board and this particular school system. The state of Louisiana has imposed these types of consequences and penalties on parents and or students who are not attending school or who have not completed high school. The last page on this, and I think this is something that we have not used and we're considering possibly going forth with this. If you look at the last page, the highlighted section, says, if a student is less than 18 years of age and is habitually absent or tardy as determined pursuant to this section, the Department of Public Safety and Corrections may, upon notification from the school board, deny or suspend the driver's permit or license of the student in accordance with the provisions of the revised statute. It doesn't say shall, it says may. So there's some latitude there on that one. So having this codified in law and the consequences spelled out, we try very hard to encourage, if a student is in elementary school and in middle school, we look at it more as a parent issue, that the parent is not getting the child to school as he or she should. And that's why when you see the consequences in the law for parents who do that there are substantial consequences. If it's a high school age child, sometimes the responsibility shifts more to the student himself or herself, because sometimes in working with the parents, they may or may not have complete control of the situation. And that responsibility may shift to more of a shared responsibility with that student taking a larger part. But in this first section, it applies to all children who have not reached the age of 18. So having said that, when we met with the district attorney, Nicosia, and ADA Aosola, we're working out a procedure through which, when we have identified a student as habitually absent, unexcused now, we're not talking about kids who go into the hospital or have medical procedures or have conditions documented by their physicians. We're talking about children who are just being kept home and who are amassing already 10, 15, 20 days absence with absolutely no justifiable reasons for that. Then we will, after our attempts to get them to school are not successful, and even sending a truant officer out is not successful, then we are going to turn it over to the district attorney's office, at which point he intends to call in the parents and have a hearing with them in his office, outlining what the consequences will be for that parent if the parent does not get that child to school on a daily basis, and to outline consequences to, if it's a teenager, to the teenager as to what could happen to him as a consequence of not coming to school regularly. And if it is still not resolved through that conference and hearing at the district attorney's office, he's prepared to press charges and enact the consequences as provided by law by bringing it into the court system and having the judge rule on this. So hopefully this will be a last resort, that we can work with parents and students to get them into school on a regular basis. But for the few students or families, parents of these students who seem to resist those efforts, then we're prepared to take it all the way through to the DA's office and through the court system if it's justified at that point.
Okay, Mr. Long?
Ms. Voce, you said this was state law, and it's also, if I remember right, we incorporated this into our policy.
Yes,
correct?
I'm glad you said that, Mr. Long. I didn't bring additional copies of our Guide to Student Conduct, but this law is in the Guide to Student Conduct.
Correct.
Parents should be aware of it. They sign off on the Guide to Student Conduct, which signifies that they have read this. So if it's not a situation where they would not be aware of it, and then, of course, as we make efforts to get them into school, our counselors and our school administrators are telling them the same thing. If we have to send a truant officer out at the next step, he or she is telling them the same thing. And through all of those steps, if we don't get a positive response, then we're looking to going through the DA's office and the court system.
Right. Well, that was my next question. Do we give them warnings, or we try to work with them before we would turn it over to the district attorney's office?
Absolutely. They're notified by by letter in the mail. They're called every time. They're called in for conferences to talk with them. We make direct contact with the parents. Then we send out a deputy to the truant officer to make another contact. And this would be in extreme cases where parents do not respond to this positively.
Now, I thought it was part of the policy, it was required to have conferences, is that correct?
Yes,
That's
and we
what I
do.
thought.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we would never take a step like this until we've exhausted all of the other remedies that we would have.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
Yeah, my question is, where, I haven't had time, I've scanned through some of it, but what about the homeschool child?
No, if a child is homeschooled, they're supposed to fill out the paperwork and send it into the State Department and be an approved homeschool student.
Okay, is that in?
Oh, no, well, if you're homeschooled, you are attending school. So this would not
So that
apply
would
to
be
any
considered
child
private.
who is legitimately being homeschooled, absolutely, right.
Anyone else? Well, Ms. Voce, since this is already a part of our manual, do we need to include the overview or anything? Or this is just for a notification, a reminder to parents that
This
we're
is-
going to proceed in this
Right.
manner?
It's
and-
informational in nature at this point because these laws and policies do already exist.
Okay.
We just want to make them totally aware that we intend to pursue this even further because, and we don't, you don't have a lot of cases like this, but the ones that you have are very difficult to deal with.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. No action is needed on this item, so we'll go to item 8, review of personnel changes. I know Mr. Granberry's here.
Mr. Granberry?
Sorry about that. I was answering a question. Excuse me. There we are.
You've been busy again, huh?
A little bit,
Continually.
it's- we just don't want anybody to quit, that's all.
Yeah.
We're fully staffed, though, I'm sorry.
We're fully staffed. We just don't want anybody to quit because it's hard to find people right now.
So our bench is kind of light.
And I know we mentioned.
If you listen to the TVs, it's not just St. Bernard where Dr. Henderson can tell you it's all over the place. They have a shortage of teachers, and it's really difficult.
I know we mentioned Sandra Garaji at the committee meeting, but also retiring is Atsi Ruiz, and a new retiree is listed tonight as Joanne Mesa. So again, we want to thank them for their long time of service to us and to wish them a happy retirement, and they will be very missed. Mr. Campbell?
Yes, Joanne Massa, one of my former students,
Oh, dear.
and it makes me feel old when some of them start retiring. She was a wonderful student, person, and teacher. Wish her the best.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Anyone else? Anything else to add, Mr. Griffin?
That's it.
Okay, well, thank you for being with us tonight. Appreciate it. Okay, next item is motion to approve changes to the pupil progression plan. There was a recommendation by the committee. Good evening, Ms. Hall.
Good evening.
There's a motion by Dr. Lewis. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Long. Now, we had some discussion at the committee meeting. Does anyone have any questions or further discussion? Or Ms. Hartland, do you have anything to add?
No, just that, we look at our local policy very carefully and make decisions based on what we feel are in the best interest of the students. Okay?
Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay. You explained it so well at the committee meeting.
Well, thank you. And I explained it to Ms. Lemoyne because she was absent for the other meeting. Okay.
Well, thank you. Okay, there's a motion on the floor and a second to approve the pupil progression plan. Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Horton. Next item is a motion to approve the administration's recommendation to award general liability, auto, and legal liability insurance to Louisiana Risk Management Agency at a cost of $228,227 minus a 10% equity refund for a total of $201,140. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Warner. Any discussion? And we have Mr. Horton with us and Mr. Clements. Are there any questions? Dr. Kraft, you have one? No. Okay. Okay. There being none, please cast your votes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you. Next item is the motion to authorize the superintendent to sign the required Louisiana uninsured motorist form. There's a motion by Mr. England, seconded by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion? Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you. Next item is a motion to approve the administration's request to advertise for bids for spices, seasonings, Class 2, cereal, dried beans, crackers, Class 3, frozen foods, Class 5, meat and meat products, Class 6, poultry and eggs, Class 7, seafood products, Class 8, and canned goods, Class 9, for January 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2017. There's a motion by Dr. Kraft, seconded by Ms. Lemoyne. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. Thank you, Ms. Bloom, for being with us.
Motion passes 10-0.
Okay, next item is a motion to approve the lowest responsive bid received for each item on the musical instruments bid tabulation. There was a recommendation by the committee, and we discussed this pretty thoroughly at the last meeting. Is there any, a motion? So moved. Motion by Dr. Lewis, seconded by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion? Okay. Please cast your votes.
Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you. Next item are items to be placed on the agenda of the next committee meeting. Anyone? Okay. There being none, and you always have until the next committee meeting to add some items. Okay, Ms. Voce, superintendent's recommendations.
Really nothing further than what we've had so far this evening. And just a reminder, I think the next event we have coming up is Ring Day on October 13th. We'll be sending out information to everyone, so we hope to see all of you there. Usually at 8:30, 9 o'clock. We'll send out the times.
Okay. There's a motion by Mr. Campbell, seconded by Ms. Aceveda. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, signify by saying aye. Aye. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you and good night.